I could feel the shimmer of my gold gown against my skin as I stood backstage, waiting for my name to be called. The muffled chatter of the audience, the occasional clinking of champagne glasses, and the low hum of orchestral strings created this surreal bubble around me. Everything felt fragile, yet heavy with expectation. My phone buzzed briefly in my clutch, just a message from my assistant confirming the schedule, but I barely registered it. My mind was elsewhere, replaying every whispered doubt, every sideways glance that had gotten me here. Then, just as my name echoed over the loudspeakers, a voice cut through the applause like a knife. She faked it. The room froze. I could feel the heat creeping up my neck, the prickling sting of eyes on me. My heart skipped, then steadied. I straightened my shoulders, smoothing the fabric of my gown with calm precision. This was the moment I had been building toward, the one they expected me to crumble in. The irony wasn't lost on me. I inhaled deeply, letting the scent of lilies from the stage floral arrangements ground me. The polished wood beneath my heels clicked steadily as I stepped forward, each movement measured, deliberate. This wasn't just about an award. It was about showing them the truth they had refused to see. About showing myself. And as I crossed the stage, I reminded myself, resilience isn't loud. Sometimes, it's the quiet steps taken while the world waits for you to fall. I remember sitting at the kitchen table in my small apartment, the sunlight slanting across the scratched wooden surface, when the email arrived. It was from the scholarship committee, denying me again. My hands trembled slightly, clutching the mug of lukewarm coffee, the steam curling into the air like a ghost of my hopes. I had worked so hard, stayed up nights perfecting essays, and yet here I was, rejected again. The voices of my family echoed in my mind, harsh and dismissive. "You're chasing something you'll never get," my older brother had scoffed. "Stop wasting time." My mother had only sighed, shaking her head as if my dreams were some childish fantasy she didn't have the patience to understand. I had felt small, invisible, like my ambition was a burden no one wanted to carry with me. But that day, amidst the sting of disappointment, I noticed the small silver locket my grandmother had given me on my 17th birthday. She had whispered, "Inside, you'll find strength. When the world doubts you, open it and remember who you are." I opened it absent-mindedly, feeling the smooth metal against my fingers, and something in me shifted. I thought about the nights I had spent teaching myself coding, reaching out to mentors online, juggling part-time jobs to save every penny for my dream. I remembered the mentor who had once believed in me, a retired engineer who had told me, "Madison, the world doesn't hand success to anyone. You take it, step by step, quietly, fiercely." That evening, I packed a small bag and left the apartment that had felt like a cage. The streetlights flickered over the empty sidewalks, and I walked with determination, not knowing exactly where I would go, only that I had to go somewhere that valued my ambition, my skills, my vision. Every rejection, every doubt cast by others, became fuel for my journey. I wouldn't wait for validation. I would create it myself. By the time I found a modest office in a downtown co-working space, I had made a silent vow. I would prove them wrong, not through shouting or anger, but by building something undeniable, something that would make even the harshest critics pause and see me for who I truly was. The downtown office was nothing like the glamorous spaces I had imagined during sleepless nights at my kitchen table. Its walls were bare, the carpet threadbare, and the hum of fluorescent lights above created a monotony that could have broken anyone's spirit. But I didn't flinch. I had carried the weight of doubt for years. A few dingy walls and flickering bulbs weren't going to stop me. I found a mentor in Eleanor Hayes, a seasoned entrepreneur who had built her empire from a tiny studio apartment just like mine. She saw potential in me that no one else had bothered to notice. "Madison," she said during our first meeting, eyes sharp but kind, "don't measure your worth by what others think you can do. Measure it by what you do." Those words became a lifeline, repeating them quietly when fear crept in during long nights of coding, designing, and planning my future. There were moments when I wanted to give up, emails unanswered, proposals rejected, clients pulling out at the last minute. I questioned myself constantly. Was I really cut out for this world of finance and tech and relentless ambition? But each time, I would open the silver locket my grandmother had given me, feeling the cold metal and remembering her words. Strength lives inside, even when the world doubts you. Then came my first small victory. A local startup agreed to let me design their marketing analytics system. The work was grueling, long nights, minimal sleep, but the sense of accomplishment was electric. I could feel myself growing, evolving. Slowly, I built a portfolio, one client at a time, each success quiet but undeniable. As my business grew, I learned the delicate art of concealment. My family didn't need to know the extent of my achievements. At least, not yet. Social media showed a modest life, coffee dates, casual dinners, vague professional updates. But behind closed doors, I was thriving. My office slowly transformed, first a sleek desk, then a wall of framed certifications, and eventually, high-end art pieces that reflected my personal taste and success. I learned to navigate the delicate balance of humility and confidence. With each step forward, I strengthened not just my career, but my resolve. I wasn't building this empire for validation from those who had doubted me. I was building it for me, for the girl who once sat trembling over a mug of coffee, wondering if she was enough. And as the first major client signed on, as the numbers on my bank account began to reflect the tireless work I had poured into this dream, I smiled quietly to myself. One day, they would see the truth. One day, all the whispers, the doubts, the accusations would mean nothing. I was ready for that day. The spotlight hit me as I stepped onto the stage, the auditorium buzzing with expectation. The familiar warmth of the stage lights wrapped around me like a cloak, and for a moment, I let myself breathe it in. This was it, the culmination of years spent proving my worth quietly, meticulously, without anyone's permission. I could see my family seated in the front row. Their faces were a mix of curiosity and thinly veiled doubt, the same expressions they had worn all my life whenever I dared to dream bigger than what they thought I could handle. My older brother's jaw was tight, my mother's lips pressed together in an almost imperceptible frown. They had expected a timid, awkward girl who struggled to hold her own. What they didn't expect was me, this version of me. The host paused before announcing my name again, the audience leaning in with anticipatory silence. That's when it happened. From the back, a voice rang out. She faked it. The words echoed, but they didn't shake me. I had rehearsed this moment in my mind for years. I knew exactly how to turn doubt into revelation. I allowed a small smile to curve my lips as I adjusted the microphone. I hear that a lot, I said softly, my voice calm but carrying over the room. And for the record, I did not fake anything. The murmurs grew, the crowd leaning in, sensing something important was about to unfold. I began to share the journey they didn't see. The nights alone in a cramped office, learning coding from scratch, the rejections that piled up like bricks, threatening to bury my dreams, the guidance of mentors like Eleanor Hayes, who believed when no one else did. I spoke of my first small victories and the relentless effort it took to grow from a struggling young woman into someone who now managed a thriving company with a growing international clientele. Then came the reveal. Today, I am proud to say that I am the founder and CEO of Madison Clark Solutions, a company valued at over $5 million, with offices in 3 cities. I achieved this not because someone handed me the keys, but because I refused to let disbelief, whether from strangers or loved ones, dictate my worth. The room went silent. My mother's hand trembled slightly over her purse. My brother's eyes widened, a mix of shock and guilt. Even the critics in the audience had to pause, the sting of truth undeniable. I let the silence hang, allowing each person to absorb the reality of the woman before them, the woman they had underestimated, dismissed, and doubted. For the first time in years, I saw something shift in their expressions. Recognition, respect, a hint of regret, yes, but more importantly, an understanding that I had built this life on my terms, quietly, fiercely, unapologetically. I stepped back, letting the weight of the moment settle. I didn't need to say more. The work, the the struggle, and the triumph spoke louder than any words ever could. They saw me, not the girl they thought I was, but the woman I had fought to become. The applause faded, but I didn't step back yet. I could feel the shift in the room. The energy had changed. For years, they had underestimated me, assumed my failures before they even existed, dismissed my ambition as fantasy. Now the balance had shifted. The power was mine, not in a boastful way, but in the quiet certainty of someone who had earned every inch of her place. I looked at my family first. "I want to help," I began, my voice calm, measured, but on certain terms. My mother blinked, startled. My brother's jaw tightened, as if bracing for criticism, but I continued. "You will no longer define me by your doubts. If you want to be part of my life on my terms, you will need to let go of toxic habits, judgment, belittling, and assumptions about what I can achieve. You will pursue your own dreams, honestly and wholeheartedly, not just what you think is expected of you." I paused, letting the words settle, watching the weight of reality sink in. My mother's hands clutched together, and I could see her mind racing. My brother shifted uncomfortably, yet I could tell he understood that this wasn't a punishment. It was a chance for growth, for redemption. Turning to the audience, many of whom were colleagues, mentors, and even former skeptics, I spoke again. I've spent years learning that success isn't just about money, titles, or recognition. It's about respect, respect for yourself and others. Anyone who wants to be in my life, professionally or personally, will honor that principle. The room seemed to exhale collectively. There was no arrogance in my tone, only clarity and compassion. I offered guidance for those willing to change, mentorship, opportunities, support for dreams deferred too long. But I was unwavering about boundaries. My hard-earned independence was not negotiable. This was the moment I had waited for. Not revenge, not proving them wrong for the sake of pride, but the chance to redefine relationships, to establish new dynamics built on honesty, effort, and mutual respect. I wasn't their daughter or sister who had once been hesitant or unsure. I was Madison Clark, the woman who had faced every doubt, every obstacle, every whisper that she faked it, and emerged stronger, wiser, and uncompromising. For a brief moment, I saw sparks of hope in their eyes, hope that they could rise to meet me, not as critics, but as partners in growth. I realized then that true power wasn't about crushing those who doubted you. It was about lifting yourself to a level where your boundaries are respected, your achievements undeniable, and your compassion intentional. The weeks after the award ceremony were quietly transformative. My family began to adjust to the new dynamic I had established, not instantly, but in meaningful steps. My mother started taking art classes she had long put off, discovering a joy I hadn't seen in her before. My brother, surprisingly, began pursuing his own business ideas, asking for advice rather than offering criticism. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, a testament to the power of boundaries and clarity. I spent my mornings in the office, surrounded by the familiar hum of computers and the soft scent of fresh coffee. I noticed little details more now, the way sunlight spilled across the polished wood of my desk, the subtle satisfaction of seeing my team thrive under my guidance, the quiet smile when a client exceeded expectations. Every element reminded me that the journey was never about recognition alone. It was about building something sustainable, authentic, and meaningful. And yet, every so often, I would reach into my necklace drawer, fingers brushing against the small silver locket my grandmother had given me so many years ago. Opening it, I felt the familiar warmth and quiet strength that had guided me from that first rejection, through sleepless nights and hidden victories, all the way to the stage where I had finally stood tall. It was a reminder that resilience had always lived inside me, waiting for the right moment to shine. One evening, as the city lights glimmered through the office windows, I paused to reflect on the journey. The hurt I had endured, the moments of doubt, the whispered criticisms, they were no longer weights dragging me down. They had become fuel, shaping me into the woman I had always been capable of becoming. I had learned to protect my energy, to respect my efforts, and to celebrate my victories without apology. And in that quiet, luminous moment, I realized the most important truth. Strength and grace are not opposites. They coexist in those who choose to rise, despite everything and everyone who ever doubted them. I smiled, feeling a sense of completion and freedom that words could barely capture. Bottom of form.